So the next panels that we have that's about to start, we have the career panel. We have line of departure, career fair success, and that's in room 2-3. That's Florida room 2-3. And on this main stage, we have location. That's where entrepreneurship resources here in Florida. So without further ado, I'm gonna call up on the panelists. Put this pen down. Hi. So for the folks who are gonna be in this room, we have the moderator, who's Rafael Calmano from VEI. Go ahead, sir. On the panel, we have Dr. Kevin Cox from FAU. There you go, you know what to do, thank you. Troy Bolivar, FGCU, and Deshaun, there you go. Deshaun Hines, HCC. And we have Russ Barnes. Are you coming up? Yeah, I see you coming up. I don't have your name on here, so. Are you on this panel? Your name is not on here, but if you're supposed to be on here, please come on up, sir. From Sistro. We just gave Russ a job. Yeah, no worries. All right, so I'm gonna give you my microphone, okay?
Good afternoon, and welcome to Location. My name is Rafael Camano, and I am the president and co-founder of BEI, the Veteran Entrepreneurship Initiative, and I am honored to serve as a moderator today. As you probably know, Florida is the most veteran-friendly state in the nation, and in addition, Florida ranks #1 when it comes to business startup. But most importantly, the survival rate for this business at around 78%. So my fellow veterans, the ground is fertile. In this session, our panelists will provide us with information and resources in 3 different areas: funding, training, and network, which for the most part are areas that all veterans struggle with when they're in business. So, fellow panelists, I'm going to introduce you again, just for the sake of the audience. On my right, I have Dr. Kevin Cox, Senior Instructor at FAU and Assistant Director of the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. Mr. Troy Bolivar, U.S. Navy. He's the Director of Military and Veteran Success at Florida Gulf Coast University. Mr. Deshaun Hines, U.S. Marine. He's the Veterans Academic Advisor for Hillsborough Community College. And Colonel Ross Barnes, U.S. Air Force, an author and Senior Business Advisor for Sistro Consulting. Let's give them a round of applause, please.
Before you start, if the folks in the back can please keep it down, or just please step outside and then have your conversations out there. Thank you very much. Here you go.
Thank you. Obviously, while serving in uniform, you don't think of practicing business networking. The military is set up in a way where they have the mechanics for you to get everything to continue the mission. So that's why we struggle to network, and I'm glad that that's a topic that we're bringing up in this Expo. So with that said, Mr. Barnes, I have a question for you. How do professional network benefit veterans, business owners?
Is this one on? It's absolutely critical because business is social. And for small business, business is primarily social. People will do business with you early on because they trust you and because they believe that you're going to deliver for them, and if you don't, you're going to make it right. Over time, you build that into trust for your brand as you scale. So the best way to make those relationships and build those relationships is through networking. And I want to say that I'm an introvert. You might not guess it, but Myers-Briggs told me I was an introvert. And so when we go into the networking environment from that perspective, and it doesn't have to do with being shy or quiet or non-social or reserved or any of those things, what it does have to do with is we're introspective before we start talking. So if we don't feel like we know what we're talking about, we're not going to talk. But once an introvert is well prepared and knows what they're talking about, you can't get him to shut up. I told Deshaun before this that this was a 30-minute panel and I was going to talk for 29 minutes. So he was practicing. Let me interrupt you. So networking is absolutely critical. There's no other way to grow your company because people are the ones who buy from you.
Thank you, Colonel. Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd love to. If in my own personal and professional experience and working with so many business owners, I found that it's the type of thing too that you can always cancel. You can always push off. It doesn't have a hard deadline. It's optional to some extent, but though it's essential. It's something you have to do. So one of the things I work with folks on is how are you going to do it? How are you going to dedicate it? How many events do you want to go to a month? How many conferences do you want to attend? Like, what are you going to commit to? And then schedule those out for the year. I used to be the very same. Yeah, I'd have a bunch of things scheduled, but then also deadlines for research papers, grades, all sorts of stuff for the day job. And it's like, I can skip this one. I'll have to skip that one. Next thing you know, you've skipped them all, right? You're not really doing any networking anymore. So forcing yourself to do something like that. One of the things we did down at the Adams Center is we even started a podcast called the Boca Raton Shrimp Tank, where we interview one local business owner every single week. All right, and the business owner has to own the business, be an entrepreneur, a founder, and the business has to be doing over $1 million in revenue. I have to show up for that show every single week because it's scheduled, and at this point it's scheduled months out because it's a little bit popular. It's not too popular, but I don't do it to have a podcast, though everybody has one, I guess. It's to do that networking. I'm forced to do it because I built it into the schedules. Wednesday at 10 a.m., I'm going to meet and spend 45 minutes or an hour with a business owner. But I've been doing it for years, right? So now I have a network just from that show of 200 plus local business owners. I know their cell phone, I know their emails, and I've spent an hour with them. So it's a pretty robust network that I can leverage to do things I do for the Adams Center and for our veterans program. But I wouldn't do it otherwise.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. So let me give you this scenario, and you guys can all answer. So we just finished this networking event here at the Veteran Florida Expo. What are some of the post strategies you want to execute right after that?
I'll start. I was going to practice that. I don't mean to interrupt you, Russ, but I got the mic already. So in essence, one of the things that I feel to piggyback on the networking first is I'm an introvert at heart as well, and one of the most valuable lessons I learned was soft skills. So when I would go to some networking events, before I would get used to talking with people, I would people watch, even though it's kind of creepy, just do it in a non-creepy way. And you get to learn, as a Marine veteran, we have that stern, strong face, which is very unapproachable, and you have to be approachable when you're networking. So I had to watch and see how people's mannerisms were, how their eye movements, how they conducted themselves, the charisma, things of that nature, so that I can learn how to be approachable. So when I become an entrepreneur and start networking, people want to come up to me and I don't have to work as hard, right? But some of after the post-event things that I do is, it starts in pre-event planning to where I come up with a strategy on what I'm going to this event for. And I try to isolate what I'm doing and my connections to what those things are so that I don't get lost in the sauce. And you may have those secondary connections, but it makes it a lot easier to track some of the things you do after the event, i.e. making those connections afterwards. And I definitely write a lot of stuff on people's business cards so I can remember what I talk with them about, so.
Yeah, similar to what Deshaun was saying, I think it's important to come up with a goal or a strategy for why you're going to network. What are you trying to accomplish by doing that before you get to the event? So after the event, I think it's important to triage everybody that you connected with at the event, and who do you want to connect with and follow up with right away, and then who do you want to connect with later on down the road. And then I think it's a good idea to send everybody just a quick email or send them a quick email. Hey, it was great meeting you. I'd love to connect either next week or I'd love to connect, later on down the road. But just following up and building that relationship so it wasn't just a one-time deal. I think that's really important.
I do one other thing. Again, and it's interesting because you're absolutely right. All of you talked about the pre-event and planning on what are you going to, why are you going, and don't just try to run to everything. And so, again, there's a gentleman named Jeffrey Lodick, and he does some things with 4Block, and he used to always bring me in to talk to the introverts because he was an extrovert. And I would say, okay, for all of you introverts out there, I got really good news. When you go to a networking event, once you get 2 or 3 business cards, you can go home. Now, why is that important? Because you can't follow up with 30 business cards. That's just way too much. But if you've planned and said, okay, these are the people that I need to meet or I would like to meet because they have a specific benefit for me and they know that they're going to be at this event, then when I go home after the event, what I do is I go on LinkedIn and I see if they're on LinkedIn. And then I read that because that tells me what they want me to know about them. And then after that, I send them an email and say, hey, can we get together face-to-face for a cup of coffee or for lunch? And then we continue the conversation from that point. Because, again, for me, it really is all about making the connections.
Dr. Cox?
Sure. I just add all of that stuff's absolutely correct. I always like to strike while the iron's hot. If I met somebody at a conference, at a trade show, at whenever, I follow up with them fast. They may have that email by the time they get back to their room if it's something really important. And then simple technical things. Make the process for wherever you're trying to get to really, really simple. If you want to have a meeting or a virtual meeting, send them a calendar link, something like Calendly, where they can book a meeting with you with 1 to 2 clicks. No, which days do you have? Well, what days are good for you? What about Tuesday at 10 or 11? You start those threads, and sometimes those meetings never happen. I know because when people start them with me, sometimes I think, I hope they don't follow up. And a lot of times they don't, and then we never meet, which we probably didn't need to anyways. They probably wanted me to sell me some educational software or something that I don't need. But make it real easy. Okay, I'll meet with this. Click, select a time. It has your calendar in there. They're in. You got them.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hine, we're going to get back to you. Based on your experience, what are some of the professional organizations offering networking events in your area or in the region that you would like to tell everyone or share with everyone?
Say that one more time.
So based on your experience, what are some of the networking organizations in your area or in the region that you would like to share with the audience?
So talking about some of the networking locations?
Yep.
Okay. For the most part, the most common ones tend to be the chamber ones because they tend to have a local chamber, regional chamber, military chamber, chamber for food, chamber for everything. I'm joking about the food, but they might actually have that. Then also go to, they have your local institutions, colleges, and most businesses and organizations will have some sort of networking event so that they can promote themselves and their business. And there's folks who are interested in that particular industry who will go as well. So those are some of the main ones. Some of the popular ones tend to be like co-working spaces. When they launch, they'll have an open house, and you have a lot of entrepreneurs or folks who are in that community who will go. So those are great ones to be a part of as well. Along with, like I mentioned, your local colleges tend to have quite a few events as well. So I'll save some of the rest for other folks. I don't want to take everybody's.
Thank you, Mr. Bolivar.
Yeah, I was going to say for the veterans that are going through the Veterans Florida Entrepreneurship Program, that's a great place to network with other veterans that are at the same spot as you, where, you know, you may not be able to help each other right now, but if you build a good relationship as you guys grow, you'll have that connection and you guys will be able to help each other succeed. So definitely take advantage of the network within the entrepreneurship program.
Yeah, I'd say the alumni as well. The program has a rich history, some very successful entrepreneurs. I'd also say there's probably going to be a little bit of trial and error in this process for you to really nail it down. Some chambers are great. Other chambers are expensive and not very useful. I won't name individual cities, but there can be variance there. So you know, you may have to test a few and say, you know, that's not really valuable to me. Wow, that was really, really valuable. Find things similar to that. Kind of skip the ones that didn't seem valuable. So working through that process, and don't be afraid to be non-traditional, right? Just because everyone in your industry goes to X event or X conference or X trade show, maybe think about, well, where are your customers going, right? What about your suppliers? What is their big annual event? Would you be better off somewhere unique as opposed to people that are all kind of in the same industry trying to do the same thing?
I want to make a pitch for an organization, opportunities that I've been really wishing would pick up over a period of time. I just haven't really had the personal time to really make it happen myself, and that is the VFWs and the American Legions, because this is where veterans are gathering, and it's starting to shift a little bit. It's been previously the Vietnam era veterans who would go, and there was a lot of smoking and drinking there, and some of the younger generations weren't really appealing, that wasn't appealing to them. So they kind of stayed away. I have to say that I was one. And so being able to go to that, having that location, and they're all over Tampa. That's where I'm at. I'm in Tampa. They're all over Tampa. There's so many of them. I actually drove around town and took pictures of all of them. So that's the extent to which I was trying to get engaged. But I would like to make a pitch for that. So if you're a veteran, stop by, take a look, and see what's there. And if you can be part of that and influence the growth, then make that happen. And I know they're making a big pitch for it in Ybor City to try to get some of those programs up, going, and running. I'll also say one other thing, and one of the things that got me going was an organization called BNI, Business Networking International. And I didn't go there really in the very early stages of my business to get business. I went there to learn. And I took every educational program that they had, and it was because that was all about networking. It was all about referral marketing, and it was all about how do you connect with people through word of mouth and get business.
Well, that's a great segue for the next segment, which is education. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those that I can go to the same class all the time, not only because I walk away with something, but I also meet new people, potential strategic partner. So with that said, what are some of the training programs out there that help veterans start their own business? And I know all of you have a hand on this, so maybe you want to talk about your program and what makes it different. Dr. Cox? Yeah.
Sure. So I run and have run and managed our Veterans Florida Entrepreneurship Program since its inception. We've done it for about 6 years. And it's a really phenomenal program if you're in Southeast Florida. It gets better every single year. The applicant pool gets better. It gets more competitive. But probably the most valuable component of it is that it's completely subsidized by Veterans Florida. Without them, we couldn't offer a program like this. We have some other ones that are at a reduced price, but there's still that cost component. With their support, it's completely subsidized. So as long as you meet the criteria and look like a good applicant, it's really, really great. I'd say the most valuable component of our program is not being stuck with me for 8 weeks, trying to teach you everything I've learned in a decade and working with, hundreds of startups. It's the mentorship. So we match every single person, speaking of that networking component, with an established, successful mentor, dedicated one-to-one throughout the duration of the program, and sometimes for years afterwards. Sometimes they hit it off, they really enjoy working together. Some mentors have invested in veteran businesses. It's a really great component of the program, and that's where the value is. Most of those mentors have far more experience than me, and they can be industry specific and immensely helpful to the veterans in the program.
Thank you. Mr. Bolivar?
So in Southwest Florida, we have our program at FGCU. It's a great opportunity to learn how to start, go through and get guidance along the way from mentors. There's weekly workshops where you come in and every week you're progressing with through starting your business with other veterans. There's different topics. Along with that, we help with the business plan. And then at the end of the program, there's a pitch competition where the veterans, they put together a presentation and they have the opportunity to be awarded equity-free seed funding. So nobody takes anything from their business. And I think today we've been able to give out over $500,000 to help veterans start their business. And that's all donor funded. So that's a great opportunity. We also have the growth program, which we're going through right now, which is a condensed, intense program. It's only 6 weeks long. Throughout that process, it's launch businesses who are already generating revenue, they're looking to scale their business. So every week they go and they test a different topic within their business. They test a different area and they come up with a good strategy to grow their business. There's other resources in Southwest Florida. There's the micro enterprise program through Goodwill, and there's SCORE, which provides mentoring. So there's a lot of good opportunities out there. You just have to look around and talk to people. Use your network. Ask other veterans what they've used in the past, so that way you can figure out, what's available.
Over at Hillsborough Community College, we have our N-Lab, where I am the project manager over our STRIVE program in partnership with IBMF and Syracuse University, where we have a 6-week rigorous, I'm looking back there at Beth and Andy, program that mainly focuses on validating your business and business modeling through customer discovery, so that we can make sure that a lot of folks have a great idea and it sounds really good in your head, but once you introduce it to that customer, a lot of times they find out that their idea is not exactly what the customer wanted. So we help them with modifying it to learn how to pivot their ideas to actually giving the customer what they want by actually getting out there in front of your customers and presenting your business to them. And the program, it goes over the 6-week training, but there's also mentoring attached to it as well. This is completely free. I'll say that again, this is completely free. And we have a national consortium, so we have about 5 schools now who've adapted the STRIVE program as well, to where we want to provide that interactive in-person training around the country, so that any veteran who needs entrepreneurship training can go to a STRIVE program or connect with an IBMF program that provides entrepreneurship training for them. We also provide opportunities for seed funding as well, to where not just loans or whatnot, but also grant opportunities as well through pitch competitions or by meeting minimum criteria with the lean feasibility plan. I can go on forever about this, so I'm not going to do like Russ is doing here, give me the little tap, say stop this. But if you want to learn more about it, please stop by our table out there. I'd be more than happy to give you the whole spill on the STRIVE program.
So one of the things that I've noticed in all the years that I've been in business, I retired from the military in 2009, started my entrepreneurial journey then, and I've been on it ever since. I've taken a lot of training in a lot of different places, and at the end of the day, it really comes down to the same information that we're teaching. And so what makes the difference? What makes the difference is how we are actually engaging. And what we do, I'm the Director of Education for the Action Zone Tampa program. We actually just expanded into Miami, but the differentiator is in Action Zone Tampa, we focus on the veteran, the service member transitioning from active service to a civilian business opportunity, the spouse, and the dependent. So they're all eligible to participate in this program. And what we do different is to make sure that this becomes sort of a family for them within this framework, because they're going to participate in the HCC program, they're going to participate in the Small Business Administration programs, they're going to participate in any other program that exists. But within what we do, we want to make sure that the collaboration and the cooperation, and when they come into a cohort, they become a very strong, very supportive ecosystem in and of themselves. And that's what we're looking for. So we have the Activate program, where we do focus on the entry-level things that you need to do to start a business. Then we have the Incubate part of the program, and then we have the Accelerate part of the program. And so we stay with them. And then if there's not something that we offer within those 3, we point them in the direction of other organizations who do. And once they get done with those 3, we still stay with them. I have people from cohort 1, 2, and 3 who still call me, and we'll talk on the phone. And I don't charge them anything for that time. I don't charge them anything. They don't pay anything for Action Zone either. So that's sort of the differentiator and what we're trying to do within the ecosystem of a tremendous amount of educational opportunities and programs in the community.
Thank you, Colonel.
You mind if I?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to a few other, because I see some folks with phones recording. There's also organizations like Boost to Business, Bunker Labs, Dog Tag, things like that, to where they offer similar entrepreneurial services as well. So I want to make sure that I touched on them to give a shout out to those folks as well. And of course, somebody here with Action Zone.
Yeah, and I think in all fairness, start with your SCORE chapter, SBDC, and then tap into all these resources. Like I said before, just go to them. And you can sign up for one cohort and then go to the next school and do the next cohort. You're always going to walk away with something. So I represent BEI, and we started in 2013 under UCF, and now we're a 501c3, but just like them, we provide the same services, and we look forward to engaging with you later on. But quick question to all of you, and I know you get this all the time. I have a great idea. Where can I go for money? Right? I get that all the time. And so, depending on the person, or not the person so much, but the technology or the innovation, I say, you know what, let's look at SBIR grants, things like that, right? But so, Dr. Kosk, I have a question for you. Is it necessary to raise money before launching a business?
Oh, that's a tough question. you're going to need some money at some point. I'll put it that way. Whether or not you actually have to do what we'd refer to as a traditional raise, that's up in the air. It really depends on your business. One thing that I want to clear up, because I think we all get that question all the time, right? In our offices is, hey, I've got a fantastic idea. The only thing I need is an investor. Yeah, there's this myth that got out there, and I don't know where it originated or where it came from, but that's not a thing that exists, I'm afraid. There are not investors typically for ideas. That's not the case. There are investors that are interested in investing in businesses, certain businesses, a very, very, very small percentage of businesses, about 1% to 3%. But you have to have that business sort of up and running before you can attract any investors. Otherwise, the investor would own the entire business, right, if they put any money in, because it's based on the valuation. And then there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But what I will say is bootstrapping is certainly a great strategy, right? Trying to keep costs as low as you possibly can until you're sure something's going to work. I have seen examples of companies that started day one revenue positive without any significant investment. These usually take the form of a service-oriented business where the founder can provide the service initially. One day I want to see him or her transition into working on the business instead of working in the business, which is a whole nother set of challenges. But those businesses can be great. An LLC in the state of Florida is about $135, $150, and you're sort of up and running. Websites are so cheap. Software is easy to develop. You can build your own website these days. You'll be able to build a mobile application soon too with point-and-click technology. It'll be all visual-based programming. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's pretty easy. So you can have your online presence. You can start playing with online advertising. It really just depends on the nature of the business, how much you're going to need. And there are certain businesses that you can start with relatively little investment, right? Another great opportunity is franchises. Franchises are great for veterans, and veterans are great for franchises. They are consistently top performers across the board, across every industry and sector that does franchising. Veteran-owned units perform better. So what do franchisors say? And they make money when you make money as a franchisee. A lot of them have discounts specifically for veterans because they're like, I want more high performers. How can I entice them to buy my franchise instead of a competing franchise? Well, they give you a discount. There's also some interesting finance options. There's quite a few tricks, but I won't go on too long. But if you get into government contracting, right, and you get that purchase order that you've been waiting for, you can factor that. You don't have to have that money on hand to deliver those products and or services. If the federal government or even the state government is your customer, that's going to be relatively cheap too. They have a great credit rating. So there's a lot of tips and tricks and strategies you can employ to do it at a reduced cost, but the investor for an idea is not a scenario that's likely to happen.
We got 3 minutes. Anybody else?
I'll be very quick.
Yeah, okay.
I promise. The best advice I can give when it comes to this is if someone asks me that question, the first thing I'll tell them is don't raise any money until you validate your business through customer discovery. And the reason why I say that is because if the customers won't buy your product or service, then you're going to waste your time. You're going to end up part of that 50% that end up failing within the first 5 years. But also, if you do customer discovery, a lot of times you may find that you may actually start making sales before you actually have to launch your product or service or mass produce it. We had an instance, very short story, 30 seconds, to where there was a young lady who started up a laundry detergent company, and in the process of doing customer discovery, she ended up making enough sales to actually mass produce the product so that she didn't have to spend any money into it. So the best advice I would give is before you raise any capital or fundraise, validate your business through customer discovery.
And I'm going to follow up on that because no business, no bank or investor is going to give you money to make money. Why? Because what they want is a return on their investment. They want their money back as soon as possible with some sort of return on that money. So why would an investor not give you money to make money? If they won't give you money to make money and the bank won't give you money to make money, why will they give you money? They'll give you money to make more money. So once you're making money, and then you can demonstrate to them that you have a trajectory of making more money, then they can see the connection between them giving you some money so you can use it for marketing, so you can use it for hiring, so you can use it for infrastructure development, so you can use it for equipment, so you can use it for inventory. And you have some very specific things you need that money for, then they'll give you the money. They won't even give it to you. They'll get it back eventually. So they'll put it in your hand for a little while. They might even put it in your hand. But the bottom line is, there's going to come a point in time. First thing you have to do when you start your business is sell something. And if you can't sell anything, do not pass go and do not collect $200. Sell something. And then once you do that, then you can take the rest of the steps down the road.
Thank you, Colonel. Bolivar?
Yeah, just following what everybody else said. Validate. Validate, validate, validate. Like when people say, go to friends and family, like I cringe when I hear that, when people haven't validated their assumptions. And if you go and you try and sell something and people don't want your product or want your service, well, why? And then pivot, make those changes, because it's not about what you want, it's about what your customer needs and solving that problem. So, before you go looking for money, validate your ideas.
Thank you. So before we conclude, I think we should give the panelists a round of applause. And also for all of you, the audience, for sitting here today. As I mentioned before, we are in a friendly veteran state. We're number one on business startup. There's no excuse. There's a lot of help out here, as you can see. So please visit their booth, visit FAWAP, hooked in with Veteran Florida, please. Thank you.